All right, welcome back to another episode of Brotherly Love in the District. Tristan here, along with Jacob. And Jacob, you want to go ahead and tell them what we're going to get into today?
Yeah, so in NFL news, we're going to be going into our Super Bowl preview and what we think will happen going into the NHL. The Caps are starting to show signs of struggle in certain areas, and the Flyers, they are a struggle. And then going on to the MLB, Rod Manfred just had a press conference addressing the whole current situation of the MLB. So let's get right into it.
All right, so yeah, we'll do the Super Bowl first, and then we're also going to do the Eagles offense this time. So starting with the Super Bowl, first off, okay, well, obviously it's the Rams and the Bengals, and this is it had never happened to have a home team play in the Super Bowl, and now it's happened 2 years in a row. They're playing in Los Angeles, and this is the battle of two quarterbacks who have never been to a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, who is 0-3 in his he was 0-3 in his postseason career, now 3-3 playing in his first Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow, who in his second year after going, I think they won 2 games last year, right? They went 2-14, or they went 2-13-1. No, they went 4-11-1 because they were the same. They had the same record as the Eagles. They went 4-11-1 last season, and they're now in a Super Bowl after just bringing in Jamar Chase. So, do you want to get your predictions first, and then we can talk about it?
Yeah, I want the Bengals to win. I really do. I think it'll be a great story considering how long that franchise has suffered. I can really, as a Washington fan, we can relate to that, and I think it'd be nice to see a long-suffering franchise finally get one. And considering that they, in the 80s, they kind of got screwed. They lost to.
The Rams only have 1 too.
But they have
the Bengals have none. But you were saying long-suffering franchise. So
no. And I want them to win mainly because how they done it. They did it through the draft. They didn't trade for a bunch of players. They didn't randomly bring in Von Miller and a retired safety that has been out of the league for 1 or 2 years?
2 years, yeah. He hadn't played in over 700 days.
Yeah, and the fact nobody in the beginning of the season would have predicted them to go to the Super Bowl, I think it'd be a cool story. And for them to beat the heavily favorited Rams, it'd be great, but I just can't see it happening. Both teams are going to try and dominate time of possession, and when it comes down to it, the Rams defense is going to be able to stop the Bengals defense, and the Rams are going to be able to run all over the Bengals defense, and Cooper Kupp is going to smoke Eli Apple. So
yeah, I mean, I think the Rams are going to win. I want the Rams to win. I think Matthew Stafford is probably the most deserving quarterback of a Lombardi in the NFL right now. Joe Burrow has his time to come to win as many Super Bowls as he can. I just think that Matthew Stafford, his time is not, he doesn't have as much time left as Joe Burrow does. And Matthew Stafford is one of those quarterbacks that you can't hate. He's just such a lovable guy. And if he had no one in Detroit, he played so well, and he just couldn't do anything because they never gave him any weapons.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is a Super Bowl where I'm actually good with either team winning, which is something I haven't been able to say in a while.
And so I want the Rams to win. I think the Rams will win. And what I think is going to be the biggest factor here is the overall rosters, because first off, I don't know how the Bengals got here, because the Bengals team is just riddled with holes, and they somehow made it work. Because I mean, here, I've said this multiple times. When they played the Titans, Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times. And I don't think the Titans front seven is anything. I don't think the Titans front 7 is anything amazing, but I think that it's one of the better pass rushing defenses in the league. Aaron Donald is the equivalent of the Titans front 4 by himself. And if you take any of those Bengals O linemen and put them on any other team in the league, they are not starting. Not maybe on the Jets or another equally terrible offensive line. But for the most part, they aren't going to start on any other offensive line in the league. So I think Aaron Donald is going to have a field day. I think this is a huge chance for Aaron Donald to win an MVP. Von Miller is going to have a field day. Leonard Floyd is going to have a field day. Just those three alone, I could see 9 sacks from those three alone, not including the rest of the front seven.
Yeah, but we mustn't forget that the Bengals kicker has been lights out this offseason or this postseason.
It's not going to matter if Joe Burrow can't move down the field because he's getting eaten alive in 0.3 seconds after the ball is snapped. I mean,
yeah, and
Aaron Donald
Jamar Chase is getting locked down by Jalen Ramsey.
That is going to be one of the most interesting matchups in Super Bowl history. Jamar Chase and Jalen Ramsey, that is going to be insane. I'm really interested. So the one thing that I think will help the Bengals is the fact that, well, okay, so Joe Burrow, he's not a big arm guy. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen, but he looks like a big arm guy because of the way that he places the ball. He has incredible vision, and I think that's going to bode well for the Bengals because aside from Jalen Ramsey, the Rams secondary is not that great. It's mediocre at best. It was suitable for them to get where they need to get. So I think that's going to be another interesting matchup is, first off, if Joe Burrow can have enough time in the pocket to get the ball out, it's going to be him delivering the passes. That's going to be fun to watch because he has really good vision for a second-year quarterback in the league. And this is a guy who was a third stringer at Ohio State, transferred, won a national championship, won a Heisman. This man had no looks coming out of high school. So I think that is, and the fact that he's now playing in a Super Bowl and is already being marked as one of the better quarterbacks in the AFC is just insane to me. I think it's going to be a really good game. Like you said, Evan McPherson is crazy. I mean, they spent a 5th rounder on him, which you don't see people spend draft picks on kickers often. And he's got ice in his veins. This is going to be a really interesting Super Bowl to watch. But yeah, I have the Rams winning, and I'm going to put a score on it. And as much as I wanted to say it's going to be a close game, I just don't see how it's going to be. And I am going to put the Rams up 31-20.
Wow, 31-20.
And I'll even give you my MVP. My MVP is I'm going to stick with it. My MVP is going to be Aaron Donald. I'm saying 2.5 sacks, maybe even 3, 2.5 to 3 sacks, and like 8 tackles. And he's winning MVP. I mean, Aaron Donald should have a field day.
Yeah, I think the Rams are going to win it too. I'm ultimately good with either team winning, as I said. I would like to see a close game, but how things look on paper, it really probably isn't going to be. But yet again, it seems like that the Bengals have been the underdogs in almost every single playoff game they've been in, so we can't count them out. If I had to put a score on it, I'd say 21-10. I think the Rams are really going to try and dominate possession and really run down the clock.
And that's another thing.
I think they'll be able. Yeah, I think their offense will be able to score points whenever they want. I just think they'll want to keep the ball out of Burrow's hands, and when they do, they just need to get quick 4 and outs and then just run down the clock.
That's the one thing that I kind of didn't really look at is the Rams offense against the Bengals defense. The Bengals defense, they have a couple bright spots on that front 4 in Trey Hendrickson, and I want to say his first name is Sam Hubbard. He's a D end out of Ohio State. Both really good players. I don't remember if you remember that play where Trey Hendrickson chased down Patrick Mahomes for like 15 seconds in that game.
I remember that
AFC Championship. Yeah. So, I mean, those are both really good pass rushers. Trey Hendrickson got a huge contract, at least for him. I mean, not huge in the eyes of the NFL, but for him, he was an underrated guy, got a huge contract from the Bengals after being on the Saints for a couple of years and sparkling there. So I really that's going to be interesting in the front 4. And I think that might promote some issues for Sony Michel and Cam Akers. Something that I'd really like to see is not Cam Akers because Cam Akers missed most of the year with an Achilles injury, and that's amazing that he came back and he's able to play now. But you can see that he hasn't played football in months, and I think giving the ball to Sony Michel and letting him run the ball will bode far better for the Rams than trying to put it in Cam Akers' hands. But ultimately, this is the real test for Matthew Stafford in big games.
Yeah, and if he wins this and has like even just an okay game, I think it'll pretty much all but lock his spot into Canton, especially because I think he'll be able to continue this form for at least a few more years.
Yeah. So that is our Super Bowl predictions. I'm moving over to the Eagles offense now, and something that we should have done last time, but I kind of forgot about it, but we'll talk about it with the defense since your head coach is a little bit more defensive minded. I'm going to talk about the Eagles offense here. And I also just wanted to touch on Nick Sirianni just because it is his first year. The offensive coordinator, which honestly, off the top of my head, I cannot think of the offensive coordinator for the Eagles right now. But here, let's touch on this while I'm looking that up. What do you think about the Doug Peterson hiring in Jacksonville?
That I saw that. That's very interesting. I think he can. I mean, that's going to be a very difficult situation, but I think he can do decent. I mean, he'll be better than what was the college head coach's name?
Urban Meyer.
Forgot his name. Yeah, Urban Meyer. I was thinking Nick Saban. That not him. Yeah, he'll definitely be better than Urban Meyer. I think it'll be interesting to see how their quarterback's name.
Trevor Lawrence.
Pay attention. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to him and what Peterson does to try and help him because they did not have a good year. And yes, I think it was down to a mixture of coaching and not really having any weapons to rely on. So, yeah, I think interesting. He's an experienced coach, and I think he'll definitely be able to get better out of their star quarterback.
So I was listening to another podcast, and something that struck me was the GM for the Jaguars right now. In his past 5 seasons, he has been through 5 head coaches.
Oh my. And just to think, only like a few years ago, they were in the NFC Championship.
Yeah. So he's been in, no, because I don't think he was there with Blake Bortles, but so they went from, so last season he had Urban Meyer. The season before that was Doug Marrone, 2 in 2 years. And then before that, he had a little bit of a break where he didn't have a job. But before that, he was the GM for the 49ers. And he had Jim Tomsula, not Tom Shula, and that's one word. Tomsula. And then before him was Jim Harbaugh. And so that was 4 coaches in 4 years. And then after Tomsula got fired, they brought in, oh, you know what? I think he was there for Chip Kelly too. I believe he was there for Chip Kelly also. So 5 coaches in 5 years because Tomsula only made it 1 year. Chip Kelly came in from 16, and then Mike Shanahan went on to coach the rest there. He got fired, went on to Jacksonville, had Doug Marrone, and then Urban Meyer will now be moving on to his 6th coach in Doug Peterson. And
I thought Washington and the Dan Schneider era had a revolving door of coaches, which we did, and that's one of my biggest dislikes about Dan Schneider. But that's a lot. That's a lot of head coaches, and you can't expect a team to perform if you have a revolving door of head coaches. I mean, we saw how badly it affected guys like Jason Campbell. He was talented. He could have done something if they had one steady head coach and offensive coordinator. But
something else that they pointed out, though, was the fact that the Eagles had a little bit too much power in their front office. And that's not like the Eagles front office wanted the power, and Doug Peterson does not do well with power above him. So this is an area where he can more make the decisions by himself and not have any outside powers like telling him what to do. He can kind of just do what he wants. So maybe that'll work for him. Here's something else that I was interested in. Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz, essentially, I believe they started the same years. Doug Peterson, actually, I think Carson Wentz was a rookie, and then Doug Peterson came in the next year. And if you recall, I'm pretty sure everyone does, but Carson Wentz did not end up doing great in Philadelphia after that sophomore season.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a shocker. I know it's hard to believe. But so what I'm really interested in is what's going to happen with Trevor Lawrence. Because that's another young quarterback who, and it might not be the same because it's Philadelphia, because it's Jacksonville as opposed to Philadelphia, and Jacksonville is nowhere near, not even close to the market that Philadelphia is. So it might not be as much pressure, but I'm interested to see, because it's following along the same timeline. Carson Wentz had his rookie year, and then they went on. Or no, they did start at the same time, because Doug Peterson's first season he was 7-9. So yeah, I believe they did start at the same time. I'm just gonna double check that because I can't think of what his record was and when he started.
Did Trevor Lawrence turn into a Ryan Leaf kind of player where he's just a huge bust?
I think he has potential. I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to bust. 2016. So yeah, they did play at the same time. So they both started at the same time. Doug Peterson was hired and Carson Wentz was drafted. Okay, that looks right. In Chicago. Yep. By way of trade with the Titans, the Los Angeles Rams held the first overall pick and selected Jared Goff, which means Carson Wentz went number 2. Okay. So yeah, but it's still following along that similar timeline where two newer positions being filled. And so I just think that's going to be interesting to watch. But I think they got potential down there. You got Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall pick, Travis Etienne, who was another first-round pick who was injured this last season, James Robinson right behind him in the backfield. They have another first overall pick this season. They have Marvin Jones Jr., who has his areas of showing some spotlight. Laquan Treadwell showed some sparks last season and kind of revived his career there. DJ Chark, if he goes back potentially, he is a free agent though this season. So they have some potential there. Their defense is not great though, except for Miles Jack.
Their team is not great, Tristan.
Their offense has potential. Their O-line is terrible. Their O-line needs
having potential and being good are two completely different things.
But I didn't say their team was good. I said their team had potential. So their offense had potential, but their defense was bad, except for Miles Jack.
Yeah. But every side of the ball is bad, but the offense actually has potential to improve with the current players they have.
Yeah. Now we can move over to the Eagles offense. And I just wanted to start off with the head coach in Nick Sirianni, which I went on in, I believe it was 2 episodes ago when we gave our in-season awards to our teams, where I said Nick Sirianni, overall, I think he had a great season, and ending up the season with 9 wins when they were projected at most 5 by most analysis and everything. I think he showed that he can coach pretty well. He works well with what he has, which I like to see. He's he looks good on the offensive side of the ball. And I think he does a pretty good job of taking control because you don't really hear Shane Steichen's name, which is the offensive coordinator. He's so far back that I didn't even realize that's who our offensive coordinator was. But overall, I like having Nick Sirianni there, and I think he was a pretty good hire as of right now.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Jalen Hurts last, I think, because I think that's such a big.
That's the biggest.
Yeah. So
really
I think I want to touch on
this team.
I think I want to talk about Jalen Hurts last. What would you want to say right after I saw you starting?
I was gonna say, on Nick Sirianni, credit to him. We were both calling for a switch to a really run-heavy offense in early season when they were getting really destroyed when they were trying to pass the ball around, which just wasn't working. So credit for him to adjusting around his personnel and not trying to force his personnel into a system. So good job on him.
I'm hoping in this next season that he sticks with that run heavy offense.
He should.
They're still going to have Miles Sanders for another year. They're going to have to look at running backs in the draft, but we're probably going to see a little bit more of Kenny Gainwell, who's supposedly supposed to be a really good prospect, but he didn't play his final season. So they're still waiting on what he's going to do, but hopefully you see more out of him. Miles Sanders is here for another year. And this is a make or break season for Miles Sanders right now. I think so. Last season, Miles Sanders rushed for 750 yards, I believe, and 0 touchdowns, not a single touchdown. And I think that's partially because Jalen Hurts, anytime the ball was within the 10, Jalen Hurts just took it himself. But Miles Sanders, 754 yards on 137 attempts and averaged 5.5 yards per carry, which is good, but
very good.
He missed a lot of games. He was injured quite a bit, which you don't want to see. And I think that's going to hurt him. So like I said, this is why he is probably in a make or break season for him right now. And what scares me is, so here's what's going to happen. Here's what I think is going to happen. He'll have a huge season. Eagles will re-sign him. And then for the rest of his career, he's just going to tear one of the CLs for the rest of his career is probably what's going to happen because that's how big contracts work. Right. But I think he has potential to be a good running back if he can stay healthy. And it's not an offensive line problem like Saquon has. I mean, Saquon's been injured, but he doesn't have an offensive line. Miles Sanders just needs to learn to stay on the field. And if he does have a good season, he has potential to get a really big contract. And I think even if he doesn't have a huge season, he still has potential to get a big contract, just not from the Eagles. And he won't be staying in Philadelphia, which is something that I don't want to see because I think Sanders plays really well here. I think Sanders is a good running back. It's, like I said, his health issues. And that's honestly the biggest thing holding him back right now. But moving on from him, I think if they were to be able to get him back on like a smaller contract, I'd be happy with that. But I'm thinking someone's going to be willing to pay 8-9 mil a year for him, which would not be in the Eagles' best interest.
It would not.
Moving on to, like I said, Kenny Gainwell. He's a guy that you want to see more from coming out. He's a rookie from last season. I believe he was a 5th rounder, which he would have gotten drafted higher if he would have played in his final year at Memphis. But he looks like he has good potential. He's got the hands and the quickness for, like most Memphis backs did, Antonio Gibson, Tony Pollard, coming along those same guys. Yeah, he was a 5th round pick. But this is probably a year they're going to start seeing more from him, where he's going to be taking more of the field. And that's where I think also Miles Sanders might get replaced because of the fact that they have Kenny Gainwell who can catch. And that's something Miles Sanders has struggled with. Uh, Boston Scott he's in a re-sign situation. I don't know if they will re-sign him though. I think if they can get him back on a small contract, they should. But yeah, I don't know if he will get re-signed. And then other than that, the only thing that I really want to see is maybe pick up a power back in the draft. Because or in free agency, they do need a power back. I would not be against Jordan Howard coming back. I think Jordan Howard plays well, but he might get signed by another team. And I think that wraps up the running backs for me for the most part.
Yeah. We'll say one thing. I think one thing that Miles Sanders really has working against him is the fact that how good your offensive line is. That offensive line is going to be able to make a lot of backs look good. So he's really going to have to step up. He needs to stay on the field, and he's going to have a big season if he wants to stay, because he's replaceable. He really is if you're looking at it. But
most running backs are this year. This time.
Yeah. But I would if you're looking at your draft, I wouldn't
I'd say a late round pick. I believe they have 11 picks in the draft right now.
Yeah, a late round pick, because if you're early, I think you need to get wide receivers and defense. That's what I think your biggest
I think
focus
defense is the first thing over anything.
Defense, and then you need another wide receiver, because everyone except for Devonta Smith has been a bust.
I think
you have a tight end, so you have that sorted out. You just need better wide receivers.
So I think that going over to wide receiver now, Devonta Smith, obviously a stud, broke the rookie receiving record for the Eagles with 916 yards. He's going to be a stud. He's the number one receiver for the future. They're struggling at number 2 receiver right now. The only way I see Jalen Reagor being dealt is if they're able to get a decent draft pick for him. He won't be cut. There's no way. Quez Watkins has potential. He looks decent. He's got good route running. And he's a really good shot guy. But he still has work to do. But he has potential to be up there. This wide receiver is probably something that I would look at for a second or third round. This is a biased pick because I'm a Penn State fan, but Jahan Dotson, he's got hands. And that's really the only thing that I'm worried about is someone being able to catch.
Tristan, I have hands too.
Okay, well, I don't think you're making the NFL draft there, bud. But I'm just I don't know who the huge. I heard that receiver this year isn't really great in the draft.
No, if I were you, I'd look at one in free agency, because there's a lot of good free agent wide receivers coming up this year. Not you guys shouldn't go for Devontae Adams or anybody like that, but there's some decent guys.
You
just need to get one.
I'd be happy with Chris Godwin. I'd be happy with DJ Chark. Allen Robinson would be another good one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd just be happy.
Honestly, I think Allen Robinson would probably be the best case scenario.
Yeah, he's tall. He's more of a possession wide receiver.
He's a possession wide receiver with the hands.
Devonta Smith is more of a home run.
And he's also a route technician. So, I mean, I think Allen Robinson would actually be a good look, and he just missed an entire season essentially. And when he did play, he was absolutely terrible. So that means his contract is not going to be that bad. I know that I'm not selling him well, but I mean, he was on the Bears. What do you expect?
Nelson Aguilar 2.0.
It's not because he can't catch. It was just because he wasn't being targeted. Justin Fields did not throw the ball his way at all. So
the Bears were doing a lot of things wrong.
Yeah. So I think, but I think Allen Robinson would probably be the best case scenario, because he would be a good guy to bring in for at the number 2 spot across from Devonta Smith. But yeah, free agency is definitely a place to look, like Chris Godwin, DJ Chark, Allen Robinson. Those are probably the top 3 that you're looking at because Devontae Adams is obviously not going to happen.
You shouldn't even look that way because he'd be way too.
And I wouldn't even be opposed to picking someone up in the draft. Like I said, a later round pick that can catch and maybe might have some sort of future here, potentially. Going over to the tight end, yeah, there's obviously you got Dallas Goedert. They got that big 6'7" guy, Tyree Jackson, who they're looking to groom a little bit more. Jack Stoll, their tight end looks decent. This was this is I think this is actually a better tight end class than it is wide receiver, but still not great.
This draft class isn't very good. I mean, it doesn't really have any quarterbacks.
Well, there's a lot of good pass rushers.
So it looks like this is more of a defense draft.
A lot of good pass rushers. Not really, because pass rushers, great. Linebackers, depends on what you're looking for. Corners.
What is good in this draft then? Pass rushers and O-linemen?
Yeah, I think O-lineman looks good. Running back looks good.
So the big guys, pretty much, and then running back.
But wide receiver, quarterback, less than
Yeah, quarterback. You should not be drafting one of those in the first round.
And then corner. But the sad thing is, there are going to be quarterbacks that go in the first round.
Yeah, and
Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis.
That's due to necessity. That really is due to necessity.
But I think the Eagles could possibly pick up a tight end in the draft. I don't think that would hurt, especially with 10 draft picks. And then the O-line, I mean, I don't think we are in any position to talk about the O-line because Jeff Stoutland might be the greatest O-line coach in NFL history. That man has made every single O-lineman that we have look like an NFL starter. They're going to keep on stocking up on the O-line because that's what the Eagles love, stocking up in the trenches. But yeah, there's really nothing more to do there. The O-line looks insane.
Yeah, just don't touch it.
Mailata could take a lead from what Jason Peters was and do better than him if he keeps on growing. I mean, he's over 300 pounds. He's like 6'8", 350 pounds, I believe. He is just a huge man. There is no moving him. But something interesting to look at is what happens to Andre Dillard. Because, I mean, he's been there for a while. He was a first-round pick, and he's maybe started 2 games in the league. But let's move on to the most interesting topic of the Eagles offense in the quarterbacks.
Yeah, this is the make or break year for Jalen Hurts. If he doesn't do well this season, he needs to go.
But now everyone's looking his way. I mean, this is.
Yeah, and maybe you could like if you really tried hard enough, maybe you could package a deal for Desean Watson or Russell Wilson because you have a lot of draft picks. You have a young quarterback. I mean, hopefully Russell Wilson goes to Washington. We don't have to worry about this. But
I saw something today saying that again, this is like just some random thing that probably doesn't mean anything, but said that one of the top spots for Russell Wilson was probably the Eagles.
Yeah, I have seen that, and also seen that Washington is possibly on that short list. I think you guys should go for Desean Watson because he's going to cost more. But
if they trade.
But one thing you do have working in your favor is the fact that he hasn't played for a year, and you could say, hey, he's going to be rusty. Maybe this price tag shouldn't be as big, but you have a young quarterback you can trade. You have a lot of draft capital, and you have some crappy wide receivers you can get nothing for.
Yeah, I think they can I think that they can probably get trying to see. Hang on one sec. But I think they have a little bit of an upper hand on some of the other teams because the Eagles have 3 draft picks, 3 first rounders this season. So if they could maybe package 2 from this season and then one from next season and throw that in for Desean Watson, and then also Jalen Hurts. Because I think if Jalen Hurts is gonna play, then or if Desean Watson is gonna come over, Jalen Hurts has to be gone.
Yeah,
I don't
and
think that they are gonna keep both of them.
no, you really shouldn't. Deshaun is going to be a lot better than Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts, I think you're really going to have to ship out if you end up getting a trade for one of the big quarterbacks.
Okay, and just a quick side note. Guess who was picked 5 picks before Russell Wilson by Jacksonville?
Jacksonville that year.
A
Justin
team-
Blackman.
A
Was
team.
that the year?
No, that is the right year, but that's the wrong because Justin Blackman was drafted in the first round. Russell Wilson was drafted in the 3rd round. But
Who did Jacksonville draft?
I don't expect you to know because it's a 3rd rounder. Just give me a position. What position do you think they drafted? Jacksonville being a team that has never drafted well at quarterback.
I'm guessing they drafted a linebacker.
No. I'll give you
line.
2 more guesses. Offensive line, no. 1 more.
Kicker.
Punter.
What
they drafted a punter in the 3rd round, 5 picks before Russell Wilson.
I mean, the Raiders once drafted a punter in the 1st round, Ray Guy, but he's the best punter in NFL history. So that's okay of a pick, but a punter. Who was the quarterback for the Jags at the time?
I will look it up real quick.
I feel like I'm gonna know it as soon as you say it.
I want to say it was probably who do you think it was?
I'm trying to know names
in 2012. I think it was Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, for some reason I was thinking Josh Freeman, but he was Bucks.
I'm gonna say Blaine Gabbert. I haven't clicked enter yet, but
it could. Yeah, Blaine Gabbert.
Yep, it was Blaine Gabbert, and right behind him was the absolutely legendary Chad Henny.
Who the hell is that?
Chad Henny was the guy who just played for Patrick Mahomes last season, wasn't he?
I don't know. You're saying this like it's a
well, no, because
big name guy, Chad Henny. That guy.
It was oh my gosh. Yeah, so last season when the Chiefs were playing the Browns in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes got injured and the Browns started making a comeback, and Chad Henny won the game for him for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't remember that game.
But yeah, it was Chad Henny and Blaine Gabbert in 2012, and they passed up on Russell Wilson.
Yes, so did we. I believe that year. That's the year
we. Well, technically, every team passed up on Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that's the year we traded up to get RG3, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
And
then,
but when I look at people who passed up on a player, I only look at that round because I mean, people say oh, the Eagles passed up on DK Metcalf. Well, every team passed up on DK Metcalf. So
yeah, but you drafted a wide receiver over him. Or am I thinking of the Justin Jefferson?
No, that was JJ Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf.
Yeah, that guy.
So yeah, but I only look at that. But yeah. So if there's another quarterback that comes in that's a starting caliber quarterback like Russell Wilson or Desean Watson, Jalen Hurts has to go because that's just going to keep that quarterback carousel going. That is Philadelphia, which no one wants to see. I think he has potential to be decent. He has to work on his mechanics. He has a lot of work in the offseason to do. I think Nick Sirianni trusts him, and I think he thinks that he can be a starter, but you can't trust Howie Roseman. That's the thing. Howie Roseman said he's going to be the starter, but you can't trust Howie Roseman. Whatever he says, you probably go the opposite of what he said. Like when you pick in the playoffs.
I just don't think he's his throwing is not nearly good enough this year. It's really hard to say considering how
he doesn't have a strong arm. His
if
he's going to throw the ball downfield, he needs to stop, square his feet, square his shoulders, and get lined up to throw it.
Yeah, and considering how fast you guys are to really crucify somebody, we've seen that with Andy Reid. I mean, we saw that with Donovan McNabb, T.O. this next year, it's definitely going to be an interesting year, because if he starts out the year pretty bad, I can see Gardner Minshew becoming the starter over him, and then you guys just looking to move him. Minshew mania, baby.
Because Minshew was a backup. Minshew was a backup for a reason.
He's a good backup, but he probably
he's a good backup, but he's not a starter. He has worse arm strength than Jalen Hurts. He can read to an extent, but not great. It's like he's not.
He has a nice mustache.
He's not the most accurate quarterback. He's not a starting caliber quarterback. So I don't think that he is the answer if Jalen Hurts doesn't play well. But overall, I don't want to see them. I think they're going to draft a quarterback, but that is a later round thing that they need to look at to groom to have as a backup. That is not a quarterback that you look to start, which is what I'm scared of, is that they're going to try to draft a quarterback that they want to start. Especially like, I think they are. I'm scared that they're going to try to draft like Malik Willis or Carson Strong and have him start over Jalen Hurts, which I could totally see them doing.
Yeah, don't do that.
Which would be awful. But that is the Eagles offense. You got anything else from the NFL?
No, there's the whole Dan Snyder thing, but that's a lot more politics, and I think that needs to play out before we talk about that. So yeah, let's move on to hockey. That's a little better, not much, but
yeah, because hockey's going down in a big way for both Philadelphia and Washington now. Washington has dropped off substantially.
Yeah, and we've really shown things that are like the things that are really getting us in trouble are special teams. So PK and more specifically, the power play has been awful, and our goaltending. At the trade deadline, we really need to get a good, experienced goaltender. I don't know if that's Braden Holtby. I don't know if he's I think he's past his best days. Like in reality, I think we should go for somebody better. In our power play, I think we need to get Mantha back. We need to get Oshie back. That'll help, but we just need to change it up. We need to see a little more one-touching passing. And Ovi, he has the power play goal record. Let's stop doing our old trick of one-timers. Not saying we shouldn't do them anymore, but try to get a lot of other looks and really change up how we run our power play, because our last game, it went 1 for 4, and we lost a brutal 5-4 decision to the Blue Jackets, and Phoenix Copley played horrible. So we need goaltending, and we need to change up how we do our power play. And I think our defense could play a little better, but they're not bad.
And like the goaltending has been an issue in Washington probably since
it's been since Holtby left, and since we let go of Trotz for some reason.
And Grubauer.
Yeah,
you let Grubauer walk in free agency.
Yeah, we let Gruby walk. Yeah, I think we should look to trade either Vanacek or Samsonov for an experienced goalie. We'll have the other one in reserve, and we also have Phoenix Copley, who can play a few games for you.
You're trying to do a 1A, 1B situation with backup goalies.
Yeah, and it's just not working. Those guys, I think they can become really good starter level goalies. I just think they need more time, and I think they need to sit behind a really experienced goalie for a little bit more.
That's the one thing that the Flyers did well was do you remember it was the season that the Flyers had a 10-game winning streak and still missed the playoffs. They fired their head coach, Dave Hackstall, and they went through 8 goalies. You know what season I'm talking about?
I think I know the one you're talking about.
I want to say it was the 2018 season.
Was that the year, was Neuwirth still with you guys at that point?
Yes, Neuwirth was still on the team.
I think that was past the Brisgall off. And who's the goalie who let the puck in between his legs in the playoffs?
Steve Mason was gone.
Yeah. And yeah.
I'm trying to see. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure. Okay, yeah, it was the 2018 season. The Flyers went through 8 goalies. Wait, can I pull up their? I can't pull up the goalies. I'm gonna see if I can pull up the goalies, but they went through 8 goalies and oh yeah, here we go. I don't even think this is all of them. Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so they went through 8 goalies and they absolutely resisted bringing up Carter Hart, which I liked because they wanted to give Carter Hart as much time in the minors as they could to do what he needed to be ready for the NHL, which I agree with. And I think
throwing him into the fire if they were to bring him up, and I think that would have been extremely detrimental to his growth. So I think you did a good job there.
And I think it paid off. I think he's playing well, especially now. I mean, after last season when he had a terrible season, and he came back and he's playing well. So I believe it started out with Michael Neuwirth and Brian Elliott in net. And then throughout the rest of the season, so Brian Elliott played the second most games with 26. Anthony Stolarz with 12. Calvin Pickard with 11. Cam Talbot with 4, who they traded for at the trade deadline. Michael Neuwirth with 7. Alex Line with 2. And Mike McKenna with 1. And then Carter Hart came in as the absolute last resort and played 31 games. And he still went 16-13-1 and won in a season where they were hockey 500 at 37-37-8. So they played.
That's a lot of goalies though.
In 8, dude. The interim head coach Scott Gordon almost had to go out there and put on the pads because he used to play goalie.
It probably would have been better just to bring in your emergency goalie and just put him in there.
But yeah, that was a terrible year. But yeah, I mean that's one of the things where you see that you really have to have a goalie, because a goaltender is one of those things where if you don't have it, you're constantly looking for it. But if you have it, then you don't want to let it go, because that's the most important thing probably in sports. I'd say it's probably the goaltender's probably more important than the quarterback too.
I don't know if it's more important, but it's certainly one of the most important positions.
Well, the reason I say that is it's the last line of defense. You have to read everything on the ice. Like, it's not just reading a defense or an offense. You have to read everything on the ice as it's happening. You have no time to think because you have to make split-second reactions. Technology of hockey gear and everything has gotten to the point where you can be aiming low and end up in a top corner. So I just think like the mental work that being a goalie requires is the reason that it's just probably the hardest position in sports, in my opinion. Quarterback would probably be a close second, but I think hockey goalie would probably be number 1. All right, here, I think this will be a little bit fun to end it with. So the trade deadline is coming on March 21st. Still nothing has happened with Claude Giroux, but give me your top 3 destinations for Claude Giroux.
Wow.
I would say 1, but there's only 2 of us, so it wouldn't really be as substantial. So give me your 3.
Wow, that's very difficult.
You want me to go first? Because I have 2 of my 3.
One of them, I'd say Calgary Flames. The Flames are
really? I haven't heard anything about them going to Calgary.
I think Calgary's a good team, and I think that Claude Giroux could really put that team over the edge. They're playing really well, and if you think about it, if you like on a power play with him, Kachuk, and Johnny Gaudreau, I think that could be a decent team. That might be more of an honorable mention, but that's possible.
Did you listen to the Bar Down podcast?
I did.
Oh, so you do know, you did hear some of the stuff that I
yeah, the Avs one of them, but I don't think they have the
Assets.
Yeah, I really don't. The Leafs maybe, but I don't think they have the assets either.
Okay, that's your 3. I'm gonna give my 3, and then we can talk a little bit more about it afterwards. Calgary is right in the mix, so that could work. I'm gonna say my number 1 landing spot where I think he's most likely to go, and that's just because I think they have the most. They have the best chance of possibly landing him, cap space wise, asset wise, everything. And I'm saying that kind of ironic to what you just said, but my number 1 landing spot is Colorado. And that's just because, I mean, they have so many young weapons that I think they would give the best offer. Because, I mean, I think Colorado could be looking to trade for him, Toronto, Tampa, Pittsburgh, which I heard about, New York, they talked about a little bit.
I heard the Wild can also be a good destination.
Yeah, Minnesota. I think those are really the only big names that he could potentially go to. So I would say, but Colorado would probably be my number 1 landing spot. Number 2, I'm going to go with Toronto. I think Toronto's a little less likely because of their cap positioning. I think they still have pretty good assets. I mean, that's a hockey town that you would want to play in. And so I think he could end up landing there. And maybe like if they trade Giroux away and then maybe they retain some of the salary for him, and then they could also get another player from him. So like a $4 million player. Like it's got to be a money trade because Toronto's right up against the cap space. I mean, every team's up against the cap right now, except for Seattle because of the flat cap. And my last landing spot, and probably, okay, so my last landing spot, but second most likely where I want to see him land is Tampa. I think.
Oh, not Tampa.
Just because, I mean, dude, Tampa is such a powerhouse in the NHL.
They're in cap hell. No way.
They're in cap hell, but hey, I mean, isn't Kucherov still on IR?
I don't know at this point, but anybody but Tampa.
Yeah, so I mean, I think
Tampa. Like no.
I just want to see him land with Tampa because I know if he lands with Tampa, that is one of the most likely areas for him to win a cup.
I'd rather see him go to freaking Anaheim.
Yeah, but Anaheim isn't going to trade for him.
They aren't, but they have a really good young core.
Okay, well, here, we listened to this other podcast, and they were talking about some other landing spots. They talked about Minnesota, which I would be okay with. I don't think they'd win with them, though, and that's why I don't want them to go there.
No,
because
I think they have a better chance in Calgary.
Yeah, I don't think he has a chance in Calgary either. I mean, Calgary...
He has a better chance, but they'd still struggle a little bit.
I think he has a better chance in Minnesota than in Calgary. I think Minnesota's closer to a cup than Calgary.
I disagree with that, but
the only thing that I like Calgary more than Minnesota with is goaltending because Jacob Markstrom is having an outstanding year.
True.
And I don't know how they only have 54 points, but he's having an outstanding year. And that's why I like Calgary a little bit more than Minnesota there goaltending wise. But overall, I like Minnesota's team better than I like Calgary's. And then two other ones. They talked about New York, which I would then watch the Rangers, not just because Claude Giroux is there, but imagine Claude Giroux across from Artemi Panarin. That is going to be the nastiest setup in the NHL.
That would be nasty, but with how the Flyers do business, I don't think it's going to be anybody in the division. They're not going to do that.
If the Flyers trade intra-divisional, I am going to be so mad, especially with this last one that I said. And that when they said this on that podcast, I almost threw something. And they said him possibly going to Pittsburgh.
Imagine if that won't happen, but if that would happen, I would laugh for like 8 straight days. I would troll you so hard.
If Claude Giroux ends up in yellow and black and yellow, I am gonna be so furious. Like
that would be disgusting, but it'd be very funny.
That's probably one of those teams where they're like, all right, so we got a best offer from Pittsburgh, and he's like, I'm not waiving my no move clause. It's like, no, I will not go there.
But hey, you could trade for Evan Rodriguez.
Because I mean, just think what I'm sure Claude Giroux does not like Pittsburgh. He's been in Philadelphia his entire career. I mean, he has to hate them just as much as the fans do. But I mean, overall, he probably just wants to play hockey. So, but yeah, if he were to end up, I don't think Pittsburgh has any. Pittsburgh is one of the least likely teams, in my opinion, because they have no assets.
They have nothing.
They're
an aging team. They're like the Caps.
Yeah, people have been saying for the past 5 years, Pittsburgh's going to downfall. Pittsburgh's going to downfall. Every year, they still somehow manage to stay afloat, but they have no assets for the future. Absolutely zero. But yeah, I'd say Colorado, then Toronto, then Tampa. But I would like him to go to Colorado or Tampa, just because I think those are the two most likely places for him to win a cup.
Yeah, and I saw a few other lists, like some of these destinations were ridiculous. I saw one list had the gall to say Arizona and Ottawa. Why would they do that?
Yeah, there's no way that there's no way that
those are worse situations than the Flyers.
I'm trying to think of, are there any? What do you think about St. Louis? I'd be okay with him going to St. Louis.
I don't really care that much about St. Louis.
I don't know if they have the assets. I don't either. I'm a little uneducated on the Western Conference as of right now. Except for I know Anaheim is an asset gold mine right now but
they should keep it.
But yeah, I mean, they're using them because I mean, Trevor Zegras, Troy Terry, who's their defenseman?
I don't know the defenseman, but Milan is another good one.
Sonny Milano's good. Oh my gosh, what's his name? Hampus Lindholm's good too, but he's I don't think he's that young anymore. I can't think of his name. Hampus Lindholm, yeah, he's already 28. Hang on. Ducks.
Simon Benoit, Hampus Lindholm, Cam Fowler, Jamie Drysdale.
That is another really good young defenseman. But yeah, I don't know. But trade deadline isn't until March 21st, which is so much further away than I thought it was. I thought the trade deadline was like March 3rd.
Yeah. Well, that's 2 days after my birthday, so.
But I think with that's all I got. The Flyers are still struggling. Did you know the Flyers have only won 3 games in a row twice this season?
That's sad, Tris. That's bad.
Yeah, it's
pretty bad. The only team worse is one of the only teams worse is the Habs, and they just got a new coach. So good luck to Marty St. Louis.
We totally skimmed over that. And Danny Briere was hired as the special assistant to the GM, to the general manager. So Danny Briere is working right under Chuck Fletcher, which is interesting because Danny Briere, after he retired, he went back to school at University of Penn to get a financial degree so that he understands the business side of hockey more. He applied for the GM job in Montreal, ended up not getting it, but now he's back in the system in Philadelphia, which we love to see him back in Philly. So I'm interested to see what he does with the team. I don't think he'll have a huge effect, but I think he's coming. It was a good time for him to join the team because it's about to get interesting with all these trades.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Danny Briere is a guy that was always working hard, so I'm excited to see what he brings to Philadelphia again.
And one last question: when you trade Claude Giroux,
wow, you're that confident?
Tristan, they will. Let's be honest. How long do you think they'll wait to name a captain? Because I can't see anybody on this current team being captain.
It'd be Sean Couturier.
I forgot about him. But do you think it'd be right away, or do you think it'd be next season?
It'd probably be next season. They'd probably just throw another A on someone. I believe right now Ivan Provorov and Sean Couturier have the A. So I think they would just throw it on. They just throw another one on like Kevin Hayes, maybe. Actually, all the A's are screwed up right now because of all the injuries and stuff. But yeah, I definitely think Sean Couturier is going to be the next captain after Claude Giroux.
Or another A can be maybe Ryan Ellis. Oh wait, he doesn't play.
Yeah, he never steps on the ice, which I still think is arguably one of the worst trades. He still has time to figure it out though, because I think he has 5 more years on his contract.
But Tristan, he's older, and once you're older and you start getting injuries, they're harder to come back from. And
he's 31, which is the same. That's actually, I think Claude Giroux's like 33. He is 5 years. Oh wait, so 5 years left. Wait, that doesn't look right. Okay, I need to figure this out real quick.
Yeah, but Claude Giroux, he isn't a physical player. He's not really one to lay the body.
He signed through 2027.
He signed a 2020. Oh my. 5 years of injuries.
But his contract is a little more front loaded. This year it's 7.7 mil to do absolutely nothing. Next year 5.3, year after that 7.5, then 6.5, 5.5, 4.5. So
that's a lot of money though. That's a lot.
Here's another one that I heard a little bit, and this is only if he comes back in. What do you think would be a good contract for Claude Giroux if they were to sign him again? Hang on, let me give you his age first before I let you answer that. I believe
4 years not going to happen. $1 million.
He's 34.
Yeah, so 4 years not going to happen. $1 million. He's not going to be on the team at the end of the season. And even if he is, he should go to somewhere else.
I'd say 4 years at like 20 mil, but front load the contract. So it's like 8, 6, 3, 3. And I think that would be the best case scenario. So then once he's in the later stages of the contract and he's probably not doing much anymore, then it's not as much money. And that would be because I mean, I don't think you realize like this, there is a chance where he does decide to stay here. Or
it's a chance, but I don't think it's the right one in terms of his career. I don't think it is. He's given all he could to this team, and he shouldn't be around for another rebuild or retool.
But I hope he does stay.
He shouldn't, but
I hope he does, because I wouldn't be against him going to win a cup either. That's why I want him to go to Colorado over Tampa. Yeah. Colorado has the best chance in the Western Conference. Their team is stacked.
They're like a Western Conference early days Caps where they win a lot of games, but they lose in the first and second round.
Yeah. And dude, Nazem Kadri, he's about to be swimming.
That's going to be a difficult situation
at
because 31, and this is the best season he's had ever. So Colorado is going to be in a very difficult situation.
I don't think he's going to re-sign with Colorado because this is a career year for him, and he's going to be getting a lot of money, and Colorado doesn't have the money to give him. So
even if he does, he's not going to be getting power play one time. That's if Rantanen and Landeskog stay healthy. And Colorado, I think, have to sign Burakovsky's a free agent, and I think a few other guys are free agents at the end of the season as well.
Talk about this steal of a contract. 6 years, 4.5. He's getting paid $4.5 million this year. And he is, I believe, top 5 in goals right now.
Kadri?
Yeah.
He's not top 5. He's top 5 in points. Yeah, goals he's not top 5 in. He's more of an assister.
Oh, well, my bad. I read that wrong then. But with that, I believe that is all we have. Anything else from you?
That's all I got.
All right. So with that, we are going to end it there. You guys can follow our Instagram at BL in the DC. Oh, no, that was points. Okay. You guys can follow us at BL in the DC on Instagram. You can DM us questions, comments. You can email us questions at blindc@gmail.com. You can DM us questions and comments there. And you can rate us on Apple and Spotify now. And with that, that's all we got. So we will see you guys next week.
See you later.